Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the role of renewable methane in the energy transition. This webinar is organized jointly by the Group of Experts on Gas at the UNECE. It's the UN Economic Mission to Europe and the European Biomethane Association. My name is Annette Kroll. I am Head of Regulation and Advocacy at ENGIE, and I'm board member at EBA. And I'm very delighted to moderate the discussions today. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping notes for you. We will start with an introductory session, and then we will have two panel debates and a break in between. At the end of each panel, you will have the possibility to ask questions. So please use the Q&A box to submit your questions. And I also would like to make you aware that this webinar is being recorded, and the recording and the presentation will be made available at the EU Biomethane Week website afterwards. So now let's dive right in. I'm pleased to be joined today by our distinguished panelists. We have Dario Ligutti, who is Director for Sustainable Energy at the UNECE. We have Francisco de la Flor, who is Director at Enagas and Chair of the Expert Group at UNECE. And we have Harmen Dekker, the CEO of the European Biogas Association and Vice Chair at the Gas Expert Group at the UNECE. So thank you to all three of you for joining us today. We are very excited to hear your introductory remarks. And we will start with Dario. Please, Dario, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. Thank you for the brief introduction. Let me give you a background a little bit why the UNECE, in particular the Group of Experts on Gas, is involved in this work around biofuels and bioenergies in general. So our highest political body, which is the Committee of Sustainable Energy, is the principal intergovernmental body within our Economic Commission for Europe, which is one of the 5 regional commissions of the UN Secretariat that deals with energy policy, cooperation, and sustainability across the region and beyond as well. The committee helps member states, 56 of them, particularly in our regional commission, but as I said before, well beyond as well our region, to transform their energy systems to improve energy security, enhance economic competitiveness, and ensure environmental sustainability. So as you can see, 3 very different objectives, but 3 very important objectives, which are all of the same value. 6 group of experts under the committee work across the whole energy value chain. And biogas represents a cross-cutting activity for 2 of them. The group of experts on gas, which is behind the organization of this webinar, as well as the group of experts on renewable energy. Let me give you a little bit of a couple of highlights from our past and current work in this particular space. A couple of years ago, we published a report which was called Pathways to Sustainable Energy, where biogas was treated as a transitional renewable to meet the objectives of the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, which is, as you know, is free and secure and sustainable energy for all, while maintaining reliability, a very, very important aspect, particularly in our region since 2022. More recently, our renewable energy status report identified biogas as one of the fastest growing renewable sources that enhances energy independence in Europe, but across all member states, really. So how, from our perspective, from UNECE perspective, can biogas improve energy security in Europe? Biogas is a domestic, localized source of energy. The countries that rely heavily on imported fossil fuels can, by producing biogas from agricultural residues or waste, for example, expand the share of domestic energy in their primary energy supply. This could be very important in the years to come in Europe and beyond. This aspect of waste to energy is very much aligned with causes we champion throughout our work in resource management and circular economy, other cross-cutting aspects across all of our work when it comes to the energy space. Furthermore, biogas could improve resilience against global market volatility and provide a buffer against geopolitical disruptions and energy price spikes, something that Europe has experienced very much so since 2022 in particular. Finally, every molecule of biomethane produced and used is one molecule less emitted to the atmosphere. And we know that methane is 84 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than CO2 at the point of emission. So biogas also aligns well with our work on methane abatement across the whole energy value chain. But there are two very important things that I would like to highlight here in my concluding part of my opening remarks that I think the industry needs to tackle for biogas and other bioenergies in general to become a solution at scale and not remain a niche solution. They are, first, prove irrefutably and irrevocably the degree of sustainability. Last week, another research came out saying that biofuels emit 16% more greenhouse gases than fossil fuels. And secondly, establish internationally agreed standards or a common bridging standard to support trade for the countries that are not blessed with natural endowments in biogas and are allowed to import biogas from surplus countries. I think these two very important aspects are crucial for biogas to become a potential solution at scale and not remain a niche solution. I know it's a tall order, and that's for the reason I'm giving now the floor back to Francisco, who I'm sure will have the solutions to these two issues. Francisco, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. I mean, the solution will come with our contribution, the contribution of all of us, for sure. Thanks, Annette, for the introduction, and also to you, Dario, because you already set up a wide picture on what is done within the division you chair. Then UNECE, probably I will try to complement as much as possible, deep diving in our group of experts, reinforce the messages, and try to reach this. There are now more than 100 participants, so quite happy that we have such an important and impressive audience. So thanks the EBA for making that possible. Then yeah, the group of experts on gas is, as mentioned by Dario, one of the expert bodies operating under the UNECE Committee on Sustainable Energy. And this group of experts brings together governments, industry, and experts to discuss the role of gas, including natural gas, biogas, biomethane, and hydrogen. So gas, as we say, always say in the International Gas Union, the IGU, with capital G, is an inclusive definition of gas. So the role of this gas in achieving the sustainable, secure, and progressively decarbonized energy system across the UNECE region. This UNECE region, as you know, is the northern hemisphere, and not only it is a model or something what is done in this UNECE is also used elsewhere in the other regions of the UNECE landscape. So that sorry, on the UN landscape, Babel. So that this is especially important in that way. Our group, the group of experts on gas, concluded or yes, stressed that biogas could help or helps decarbonize several sectors by partially replace fossil fuels, as already said by Dario, but integrating the biomethane into the gas grid. Now I'm speaking about biomethane into the gas grids can directly replace part of imported natural gas while maintaining the same infrastructure. Is the same infrastructure is used. can be injected into the existing gas pipelines and used in heating, transport, or industrial systems. No need to build a new system from scratch. In my iPad, you can see that, for instance, what I promote is the G mobility. The G mobility means that biogas, natural gas, hydrogen, etc., are a very substantial part of the should be part of the solutions for the mobility. Of course, that biogas nicely complements variable renewable energy, as it can be relatively easily and inexpensively stored and used on demand, making it valuable for balancing electricity grids and providing inertia of the systems. You can access to one of the papers we prepare within the group of experts on how the gas, including that biogas, is pairing with variable renewable energy sources, and we believe that both integrate very well. So that paper was prepared few years ago, and now we can say from that paper that the conclusions are even more valid that used to be 3 or 4 years ago. Then something else, when biomethane is liquefied to produce bio LNG, it can further reduce greenhouse gas emissions in one of the sectors probably most difficult to decarbonize, which is the maritime sector. Then it is used as bunker fuel, and increasingly important benefit as the number of LNG powered vessels continues to rise each year. Biogas, again, the beauties of biogas is already a net contributor to greenhouse gas emissions mitigations, playing a pivotal role in achieving the SDGs. Although its market share, for the time being, remains significantly below potential at approximately 1% of natural gas market. But I'm sure that the efforts done by this organization, by the EBA, and other sister organizations in the world will contribute to increase that percentage. Will be good for all of us and good for all the energy system. Even more, biogas and biomethane also play a key role in advancing the circular economy by turning organic waste into renewable energy and valuable byproducts. Just a personal anecdote I share with Harmen. Several decades ago, we prepared to get our degree at university. We were studying this topic, how this circular economy, how to get biogas, how to upgrade to biomethane, how to use it even for cogeneration. So that I'm going back several decades ago, and now we are getting, because we thought that this was the future, and now we are getting momentum. So quite happy that we can see this is working. Just a couple of final points from my side is referring to the session, the 12th session we celebrated in March 2025 of this group of experts, when the group discussed the enabling role of biogases in attaining the Sustainable Development Goals. Here, again, I'm using biogases in plural, just to refer to biogas and biomethane, and just to how to concretely we say that biogases could help achieve many of SDGs, namely SDG 2, zero hunger, SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 5, gender equality, 6, clean water and sanitation, 7, affordable and clean energy, 7 probably is the most in the center. 9 industry, innovation and infrastructure. 11 sustainable cities and communities. 13 climate action, and 15 is life on land. So biogas extremely or very close to these SDGs and substantial part of the SDGs. So to conclude, of course, biogas will continue to be in focus of our work, the work done, the compromises, the commitments, and our working program of the Group of Experts on Gas in the coming years. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot, Dario and Francisco, for these very insightful opening remarks. Thank you for reminding us that biogas, biomethane is the fastest growing renewable energy source. That's, of course, very good news. I think you set the scene very well, reminding its complementarity with renewable power, the easy handling, the possibility to use it in existing infrastructures and appliances, and the many other advantages that biogas and biomethane have. Also reminding us that there are challenges to overcome, so that will be indeed also part of our discussions today. And of course, the need that our sector needs to scale up. And I would like to give the floor to Harmen Dekker, as CEO of EBA. I think you know the sector better than everyone else. So Harmen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Annette, and thank you, Dario and Francisco, for I see that the camera is turning, so now you can see me. But thanks for both of you for your introductory remarks. We are delighted to host this webinar as the European Biogas Association within our offices in Brussels. And actually, you have said so much, there is a little left for me to go on. So many thanks for the great summaries which are there. And indeed, Francisco, we are sharing not only the chemistry at our hearts, but indeed biogas when we are starting remarkable parallel routes. And I'm really delighted to be here with you and with Dario and all the others and the experts to see how we can help biogas grow in a scalable and also sustainable and a responsible way. Let me just make a few short remarks before we go into the sessions. Just to stress a few things. Biogas is growing very fast, not only in Europe, but also in Asia, China especially, but also in South America. That is for a reason. Biogas is bringing a lot of advantages. Those were already mentioned, but I would like to highlight a few important things. One is it brings system stability, resilience to the system. So actually, and we will look at that a little bit more, but electrons and molecules are needing to work together to make sure that the cost for the consumer will stay low. And biogas is the most cost-effective or competitive renewable gas there is, and also the most scalable. We see this in Europe. Over the past 1.5 years, we have been scaling up from 4 BCM, a little bit more than 4 BCM of last year, to a capacity of 7 BCM on biomethane. In total, already 22 billion cubic meters of biogas and biomethane. And we have more than a sustainable capacity within Europe towards 150, actually exceeding what the European Commission is thinking the gas total gas need will be and demand will be in 2050. So we will play a significant role, and that is because we lower indeed the cost, but also, and that was addressed yesterday during the European Biomethane Week at the conference, it brings security. It brings security for two reasons. One, balancing of the electricity grid where it's needed, but also because of the sheer number of decentralized biogas solutions which are connected to each other, bringing own sources of renewable gas to the society and to the economy. So basically, this is what's being seen. maybe biogas was a little hidden because it was sometimes small and people were thinking, all right, okay, this is only at a farmer scale, but it can also be at a more industrial scale as well. Biogases are increasingly being supported by countries around the world. And what the group of experts on gas within the UNECE has done as well is we've prepared a biogas declaration, which we have submitted also to the COP30, or it will be handled by the COP31, that's depending on how quick we can move, to make sure that all countries around the world can sign and support biogases. To sum up, biogases or biogas and biomethane are important for independence, for security, and we will bring prosperity, especially to the rural areas. So I'm really keen to go into the next sessions to explore this further, and I wish you all a very good webinar.
Thanks a lot, Harman. Thank you also for those insights from the perspective as EBA. Thank you for insisting also on the competitiveness of biomethane, which is indeed high on the agenda nowadays. So its contribution to security of supply, all these very important aspects. And with this context in mind, let's now move into the first panel. On this panel, we will dig a bit deeper. We will explore what is the sustainable potential of biomethane. How does it contribute to energy security, to greenhouse gas reduction, circular economy? And I think our experts are particularly well positioned to speak about the impact of biomethane on sustainable agriculture. What are the co-benefits it brings to the rural areas, for the farmers, for the waste management sectors? And I think we will also hear about the challenges and hopefully the solutions, how to overcome them. So I'm very pleased to introduce our panelists. Today, for this first panel, we have with us Connie Miller. She is Deputy Coordinator of the Global Bioenergy Partnership at the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. We have Ana Alcalde. She's Energy Analyst at the International Energy Agency. And we have Piero Gattoni. He is President of the Board of the EBA and President of the Italian Consorzio Italiano Biogas. So welcome to all three of you. And I would like to start the discussion, the conversation with a presentation by Connie. Connie, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Annette. Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today to speak to you all on this World Food Day and also the 80th anniversary of the Food and Agriculture Organization. So it's a special day for us. Today, the theme of World Food Day is Hand in Hand for Better Foods and a Better Future. And really, we're focusing on not only cross-sectoral teamwork, so working hand in hand towards this goal, but also looking at innovation to support us in feeding our growing population. And so it's nice today to be able to speak about biogas, which I feel really embodies both of these thematic areas. Okay, so I would like to start by giving a bit of an overview of this nexus on agri-food systems, climate change, and energy. So as we know, energy security, agriculture, and also climate change are intrinsically interconnected. Agri-food systems need energy at each step of the value chain. And this means that 30% of the world's energy is consumed within agri-food systems. And this energy use is also responsible for almost 30% of the total anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions produced by these agri-food systems. So a transformation of how we produce and use energy within agri-food systems is obviously required. And FAO in this regard works on supporting the deployment of energy smart agri-food solutions. And we do this under three main pillars. The first is the deployment of renewable energy within the agri-food system. We also then look at efficiency and sustainability across agri-food value chains. And then finally, producing sustainable bioenergy from these agri-food value chains. And so obviously this is where biogas comes in. Oh, sorry, I don't seem to have control of the, okay, sorry, now it's working. So I am not going to go into too much detail into this this diagram here, but what I really want to emphasize today is how biogas can be a good system for closing the loop, using wastes and residues from agri-food systems to be able to produce not only energy, but also other beneficial co-products. We see that around a third of food is lost or wasted after the farm gate. And that means that around 38% of the energy is equally wasted. So we can see that the management of waste and residues using anaerobic digestion can support a circular bioeconomy. Here I'm focusing on waste and residues. There are other potential feedstocks from agri-food systems, but I'll let Piero from the consortium of biogas, Italian Biogas, to talk about their model that I know includes other kinds of feedstocks. But really what I wanted to emphasize here is that not only can the energy go back into the agri-food system through heat and power, but also transport fuels for farm machinery and also for cooking. But also we have these other byproducts. So digestate, it's been known for a very long time, can be used to replace chemical fertilizers. And also more recently with the upgrading of biogas to biomethane, we also have the production of bio-CO2, which can be used for a number of bio-based products such as bioplastics, but also in the carbonated beverage industry. On this note specifically, FAO, we're currently working on this CCUS, carbon capture, use and storage. And so if you have any interesting case studies that you would like to share with us, we'd be very interested to hear from you. Not only are these co-benefits evident of the biogas from agri-food waste and residues, but they can also contribute to climate change mitigation. So there are three main pathways for this, as we've already heard: reduction of unmanaged decomposition of these wastes and residues, reducing methane, the replacement of the combustion of fossil fuels, producing CO2, and also the reduction in the use of synthetic nitrogen fertilizers from the use of digestate as an organic fertilizer. But on top of this, we can also enhance resilience in the system by providing diversified farm outputs and also additional sources of income. Now, this is not to say that there are not potential risks and trade-offs, and I wanted to particularly highlight those and how we can overcome them in my presentation. Some of the potential risks are the alternative uses of the waste or the residues, the management of the digestate to avoid pollution, environmental degradation, the potential for the incentivization of intensive systems, biogas leakage and also flaring, and then also the risks of long-term economic viability as well of these systems. And so this note specifically works on bioenergy sustainability, and we have two main methodologies and tools for this. The first is the bioenergy and food security assessment approach, where we look at the techno-economic feasibility of the deployment of bioenergy systems, looking at potential feedstocks and also technologies in a given context. And then we also have the Global Bioenergy Partnership sustainability indicators, which can be used to monitor, measure and monitor existing bioenergy value chains to be able to provide recommendations for both practices and policies. And specifically looking at integrated biogas systems where we have this bioenergy and also bio-based products, we are looking, it's particularly relevant that we're now expanding the use of these indicators to be able to extend the system boundaries to better consider byproducts and also circularity. And the first output of that work stream will be available next year. So using our tools and methodologies, we've done a number of assessments at country level all over the world. And here you can see some examples specifically on biogas. And these country level assessments show promising potential for biogas to contribute not only to climate change mitigation, but also modern energy access and waste management. And it's worth noting here that some of the drivers in the global south when deploying biogas, it's not actually the energy component, it is actually the waste management, so a way of managing wastes. And I think that's something that in Europe sometimes we can forget, but also in the global south there are different drivers. When we have done techno-economic assessments, biogas demonstrates favorable cost of carbon abatement in general, and also the possibility to provide green jobs. However, we have also noted that these feasibility assessments are really essential to be able to ensure the selection of appropriate feedstocks and technologies for the specific context, and to be able to ensure that the rate of return is as high as possible. The regulatory framework is also extremely fundamental to ensure that sustainability standards are put in place and also respected. And then there's also the need for targeted investment. And on this, it's not only investment in terms of CAPEX, but also investment in terms of capacity building to ensure that these systems are managed and maintained properly. And then also looking to ensure that there are favorable policies to incentivize investment in the sector. So in conclusion, I would just like to say that biogas produced from agri-food wastes and residues has an extremely high potential to be an integrated solution that supports the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, many of them not just SDG 7 on energy access, but that it's not a panacea, and we really do need these context-specific assessments to be able to ensure that we're using the correct feedstocks and the correct technologies in a certain region and country context. Thank you very much, and I look forward to questions and discussions. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Connie, for this very interesting perspective, which shows very well how biogas and biomethane actually make the link between the energy transition and the transformation of the agri-food system. That's very enlightening. I would like to continue now with Anna to give us the view of IEA. Thank you, Anna. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the invitation to speak in this webinar and share some of the information and the latest findings that we have in a couple of reports where we were covering the biogas and biomethane sector. So I would like to share with you today some information on the supply side, so feedstocks, and this is a recent geospatial potential analysis on feedstocks, and then I will complement it with having a look at the role biomethane plays in biogas and biomethane both play in energy systems, looking at the demand side. So starting with the feedstock part, this recent geospatial analysis, it's interesting to start explaining what we included, what we considered. We considered 30 different types of feedstocks, mainly waste and residues from these categories: agricultural residues, both crop residues and animal manure; bio-waste, both municipal solid waste and industrial; and then woody biomass for the gasification route. So when we look at all these types of feedstocks and we account for the feedstock potential, we see that almost half of it comes from crop residues, 30% from animal manure, and 15% from bio-waste, both municipal and industrial. So here we see the strong link between agriculture, animal livestock sector, and biogas, biomethane. These are very linked, and in supply chains, it's very important to keep them together and in an integrative way. Also, the way waste is collected is an enabler for the development of biogas production systems, and this is something that Connie also mentioned. In some countries, waste management is one of the drivers. I would also like to mention that when we did this analysis, we discounted other uses, other current uses such as food feed, animal bedding, and replenishing the soil nutrients. So this is something that needs to be taken into account because they can be competing uses for these waste and residues. Yeah, next, please. So now, if we look at the geographical dispersion of this feedstock potential, I would like to highlight that the number is quite high. We have estimated around 1,000 billion cubic meters. That means that's equivalent to 25% of current natural gas consumption. So this is an important number. And we also see when we look at the map that this potential is widespread. It's present in many regions. And this is very important for domestic production of energy, for energy security reasons, and especially for those countries that rely on imports of fossil fuels, natural gas, LNG from other countries. So they're seeing this as a source of domestic energy production. This is relevant. We also see that 80% of this feedstock is located in emerging economies, and that's also important. This is a widespread resource. Yeah, we can go to the next one, please. So now if we focus in the European region, although in the report you can find details for other regions, but as we're in the European Biomethane Week, then I'll focus more on this region. We see that this is a region that has strong potential. So we estimate around 50 billion cubic meters of potential. This is a region that has been using biogas and biomethane for a long time. So we're already using 40% of this potential, but there's plenty of room for increased growth. So something that I would like to highlight too from this region is that it's a region that has a very dense gas grid compared to other regions where this is a challenge. And we see that 60% of the feedstock is located at less than 20 kilometers from a transmission pipeline. This helps a lot. This is something that needs to be planned and enabled, but this is a good strength for the development of gases. If we go to the next one, please. So now I would like to have a look at the other side, the demand side. And these are numbers for the European region. We've seen that it's biogas production is increasing strongly in the form of biomethane. Biogas is a bit more stable, but most of the growth is coming in the form of biomethane. And where is this biomethane used? Well, traditionally, we've seen from 2010s, we saw that the main use was for power and combined heat and power, mainly in the form of biogas. But the trends have changed, and in the last 5 years, we've seen that main growth is much smaller for power generation, and we see a diversification of final uses coming from biomethane and its versatility to be injected in natural gas grids and then be used for plenty of final uses. So we see that this trend is going to increase. Power will be, so biogas will still have a relevant role in power, maybe not in big volumes, but more as a grid service provider. So it's one of the few dispatchable renewable energies that we have, and this will play a role in the midterm. Now, as non-dispatchable renewable energies are growing, this will become more and more relevant. But in the meantime, biomethane is growing, and the main sectors where we see this growth is industrial heat, especially in those applications that are more difficult to electrify, but are already using natural gas. This is an NEC displacement, heating, and in residential and commercial sector, and also transport. So transport is a good example. In those regions and countries that have targets based in greenhouse gas performance, then biomethane will play an important role. We've seen this in the past years, for example, in the case of Germany, that has this type of system for the transport. Then biomethane has been very competitive compared to other sustainable fuels, other biofuels, especially the one coming from animal manure. And we see that this is a tool to mobilize those feedstocks that may be more efficient in terms of decarbonization of the system. So as we see that this trend is increasing and more countries are transposing RED III and using choosing to use this kind of systems based on carbon intensity, then biomethane will have a more relevant role in the case of heavy duty. And we'll see new markets coming in, as for example, transport for maritime shipping. Okay, if we go to the next one, please. Yes, so we see that this growth is accelerating and is continuing. And accelerated growth is ambitious, but we think it's achievable. We've seen that there's enough feedstock for this, and this is something that Brazil is putting on the table and promoting in their presidency of COP30, how to accelerate growth of sustainable fuels and biofuels. Biogases play an important role here. For this, we need to fully implement the policies that we have in place and then remove the market barriers that still exist. So for the case of biogas, biomethane, I would say that these are 4 priorities that are relevant. The first one is to have a look at how we develop supply chains, and it has to be done in an integrated way with agriculture and with waste management. In terms of policies, in terms of tools, this needs to be aligned to be an enabler and not a barrier. Also, in terms of infrastructure needs, planning for grid injections, etc. This is relevant, and it's proven to be a good enabler when it's working well. The second point would be the valorization of co-products such as the biogenic CO2 and the digestate. Connie mentioned it, and when we see that the case of the practices in Italy, this is a relevant topic from the industry. It helps closing the cost gaps. The third one would be to have relevant, transparent and robust carbon accounting methodologies, not only in Europe, but in other regions. This would allow for trading, and this would allow for comparison between biomethane, not only with fossil fuels, but also with other sustainable fuels that will come into the market. We need to have a common indicator for all of them to be able to compare them. It's not just the type of fuel, it's also the way it's being produced, their life cycle analysis. This is relevant, and this will be a helpful tool to compare fuels. And fourth, and also important, policies need to establish long-term visibility for demand, especially relevant in new countries that are trying to grow their biogas and biomethane production. If you go to the next one, please. Yeah, this is all the messages that I wanted to share, but I'm leaving here some links to recent reports where we are discussing this type of topics in case you want to, you're interested and want to have a look at more in detail. Well, that's all from my part. I'm open for questions in the final question session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anna. I think again a very insightful presentation. Thank you for giving us this global view and the zoom in to Europe, and also sharing your recommendations for the policy priorities. I think that's a point where to which we will definitely come back in the Q&A session. But before that, I would like to invite Piero, last but not least. Please share your thoughts with us, Piero.
Thank you, Annette, and thank all the speakers for this important contribution. I will just start from the scenario, because I think it's good to always, every time, remind us where we are on. If we take the trajectory of reducing the natural gas because of the efficiency of energy in Europe, and different scenario on the potential of the production of biomethane, in here we are taking 40 BCM 2030, which is a potential established one in one of our EBA study, which is decoding biogases. But thanks to IEA, we just heard that probably the potential could be even more by 2030. We're talking about 550 BCM. And with the trajectory to 2040, we can try to reach 85% of the natural gas consumption in Europe with biogenic gases, which is biomethane, let's say. So I think this is a kind of goals that have to make everybody and everybody of us and everybody here in Europe and all around Europe to be very involved, even if there are some countries which are more ahead and there are countries in which the potential is higher. We also have to need an European vision to see that how everybody have to, every member state have to fulfill these goals. But let's start from the beginning. And Connie already said that with the Global Bioenergy Partnership, we've been working in Italy on the biogas downright model. And the biogas downright model we've been developing start from a simple question: where the biomass come from? Because anaerobic digestion is first question we have to put if we talk about biogas and biomethane for us is thinking where the biomass come from. So if you look at how we are producing biogases and biomethane today all around Europe, we see that more or less 70% comes from agriculture, residues, manure, and sustainable crops, which is something that we have taken into account, because sometimes when we talk about biogas and biomethane, we heard that it's just waste. Biomethane is not waste. If you want to achieve those targets, we have to understand that we need to use also the agro-industry potential, which is very important to understand. So the bioenergy, bioenergy starts from a different role of farming sector can make in producing energy. But I can give you another insight, because sometimes I see when this discussion about this topic is not always taken in account. Why is so important? It's so important also because the business model of bioenergy in the future, decentralized bioenergy, needs to have bankable investment. And agriculture crops, sustainable crops, most of the time are the biomasses that are for sure can be used from the farms that have to produce biomethane. You can rely in a financial system on just residues which are not produced for who's making the investment in the energy part. But let's talk about this. If we say, so if we assume that bioenergy, so the agriculture is so important, how we can produce on a sustainable way? That is all the topic. How can we produce? Because we developed this model. This is a model that comes from research that has been then based on a foundation called Farming for Future. Basically, we assessed in Italy that with 10 actions, we can produce more than 5 BCM by 2030. And this production will help the Italian farming sector to reduce by 30% their emission. And this is something that is why it's so important, the bioenergy, because bioenergy is not just energy sector. It should be also something that push farming sector to go deep into the agroecological transition. And this is very important to understand because circular economy, we talk always about circular economy, is not producing less. Circular economy is producing more with less. And with this system, we can intensify in a sustainable way the production of carbon from the farming sector, and in the meantime, reducing all the reduction. So this model is based on soil, obviously, environmental, because if you use digested, so you go on a more organic fertilizing, then you reduce also the use of chemical fertilizer. We had some study assessing this model and how sequential cropping can be a good path for promoting bioenergy. 2016, there was the first study from Ecofis assessing that with sequential cropping in the, let's say, South area, Mediterranean area agriculture, we can produce using organic fertilizer, increasing the carbon in the soil, and at the same time having more carbon to use in both markets. One market is the food and feed, which is the core business for farming, and a more carbon to use also into the anaerobic digestion, so it goes on the energy market. And then we have another study, very interesting, coming out from BIP, which I was co-chairing the Task Force 3, looking at the potential of sequential and rotational cropping. Which was the more interesting output from this study? That from every region you can apply this model to produce, to sustainably increase the production, even if it's not, even if it's very different all around Europe. And there's one that I always hear as a farmers when I talk with some other colleague. Okay, you can do sequential cropping on the south because you've got sun, and it's fine. Then you go a little bit more on the south, and they say, oh, but you can produce because you've got water, we don't have water. Things is that every place has its own way to increase with organic carbon fertilization and can achieve a better rotational path to produce for both sectors. And this is the point. We can do this with technology. And to shift to this more sustainable and more competitive agriculture, we need to have also the energy market. We are following the CAP reform, and we all see that money that will go from agriculture are going to decrease. We are investing, but there are more money to invest in infrastructure and technology. So we have to use this model to use in the right way the investment to have a farming sector in Europe that can produce for food and feed sector, completely continuing to offer to the global consumer a high quality and secure food products, but at the same time, with the residues and in a best way of using the soil, we can also produce biomass for increasing the security and the sustainability of the energy sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Theo. I think cropping, also the biogas done right program in Italy. This is really a reference across Europe. Very interesting, good practices. I would like to move now to the Q&A session. So please, the audience is already submitting questions in the Q&A box. That's very good. I let you further reflect on further questions, and I would like to start in the meantime with some questions that I have myself. And the first one would go to Connie. Connie, I think a question that is on many people's minds, and that is a quite fundamental question for our sector, is the competition between food and feed production and energy production. I would like to have your view on that. How do you see this possible competition?
Yeah, thanks very much, Jeanette. As you mentioned, it's an extremely important point. And I think that let's call it a debate, has evolved a lot over the years, over the last 20 years, let's say. Point now where we are thinking more about these integrated systems that can produce food, feed, fiber, and energy all together. So we're thinking more about food and energy rather than food versus energy, let's say. That's not to say that there are not big risks in terms of bioenergy as a whole. If we focus in on biogas, and as I mentioned, the use of agricultural residues and wastes for the production of biogas, those risks decrease a lot. And especially in some of the country level assessments that we have done, we don't see many risks in terms of food security, especially in terms of the techno-economic assessments that we've carried out in Africa and in Asia with the use of these wastes and residues. There are no real threats to food security in that sense. And so I think that as long as we are properly selecting the feedstocks and also the technologies, then we can find a way for the bioenergy production, or the biogas production in this case, to actually support the production of let's say the availability of food. So for example, if we're looking in the Gambia, where they have the potential to produce biogas from, for example, slaughterhouses or markets, there the production of that energy can actually be used for example, cold chains to support the distribution of safe and nutritious food to the community. So let's say that there are risks, but there are also innovative solutions where the production of bioenergy can support food security. So not a negative, not a positive. Unfortunately, I can't give you a black and white answer on that, but I think that yeah, we have opportunities for bioenergy to support food security rather than be detrimental to it.
Thank you very much. I think also Piero, the biogas done right model shows how you can actually reconcile and mutually support the transformation, the sustainable transformation of both sectors. So it is indeed up to our sector to use the resources we have in the most sustainable way. I have another question to Anna. Anna, you showed very nicely the global potential of biogas and biomethane. You did a very nice zoom in on Europe. How about outside Europe? I mean, do you see the potential being realized?
So Europe is the region that has for a longer time developed the biogas sector. And currently half of the world production is happening in Europe. So there's a difference. Also, United States is quite advanced. We do see that this is not just a European interest, that many regions are starting to develop national targets and their sectors. And for example, it's a very important topic for the Indian government, for China, and for Brazil. Brazil starting a new blending mandate in 2026. So there are regions with very good feedstock potential that are realizing that this is important for their energy system. So we're seeing that it's not only Europe that is growing, other regions are growing. Maybe they're starting, their market is a bit more recent, so they have different challenges. But it's a widespread use in other regions. Drivers are common to other regions. So we do see that this is a world energy vector. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I see also from the comments in the Q&A that, for instance, we have a participant from Indonesia there who is giving quite an example from the ground how they are trying to develop biomethane, the first plant in Indonesia, and for small scale LNG use. I think there's also some way to exchange and help sharing good practices and sharing experiences even across the world. So nice example how international we are in this sector. I would like to turn to Piero with a question on your presentation. So it seems very virtuous, the sequential cropping model. It increases actually the feedstock, the sustainable feedstock that is available for biomethane production. What are the barriers actually that prevent a broader adoption of this model?
Mainly two. One, obviously, is the regulatory framework. If we still think to how today are categorized in Annex 9 of the red, the sequential crops is something that we have to look at, because every time we go to these regulatory frameworks, that's put a limit to the trajectory that in which we can invest. And obviously, is something that we have in Europe, we have to solve also, because we need to have a worldwide regulatory frameworks. If we talk about SAF, talk about transports, we can't have some rules in Europe and some other rules, for example, in the US. I mean, the plane will leave Milan or Paris and we go to New York. There's not going to be two SAF in the meantime. So even if I think this is one that we have to look at, because we need to have a clear rules that can allow to use sequential cropping in the advanced biofuel market. And the other one is obviously technology and investment. I will go to the Draghi reports that help European citizens to understand how much will be the investment in the future if we want to full go for the transition of our economy. We will need the investment. My fund, for every euro I've been investing in the biogas plant, I've been investing €1 in technology, automatic mechanization in agriculture, animal welfare. So thing is that we need to deploy this investment to have a fund which is allowed to produce more in a more sustainable way. I think that we can do this. And last but not least, we have some cultural bottleneck. And I'm saying also in the sector of producer, and that's why as EBA, we are all committed to try to talk to industry and to farmers to make them understand there's another way of producing is possible. And so we, rather than stop the transition, try to work to have a better transition, will be strengthen also the competitiveness of farming in the EU.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Piero. I see there are many questions coming in now in the Q&A box. I would also like to invite the audience to rate, and don't hesitate to give thumbs up to questions that you find particularly interesting. That will also allow us to structure a bit the order in which we treat the questions. Well, I will start with the first quite comprehensive question that is tackling a bit the policy framework, especially in the EU, pointing out that in some countries you have relatively easy access to the grid when producing biomethane. The permitting is going more or less smooth, and you have some incentives, while in other countries there is not so much of a favorable regulatory framework. So there are quite some differences across Europe. And the question here is, how can Europe encourage actually a more even uptake of biomethane? How can Europe encourage countries to push forward together and harmonize possibly also certain rules, so to accelerate really a European market? I think you probably can all say words about this, but perhaps I start with Piero, your view on the role of Europe to promote biomethane.
We just finished out from our biomethane conference, biogas and biomethane conference, and I see that we are more than now we can say that in Europe we need to have a development of biomethane. There's a great interest. I think we can learn a lot from the best practice and the best experience all around. As a biomethane producer, I can say that I learned from the beginning from Germany, how to produce biogas, because if you want to produce biomethane at the end, you have to produce biogas to start with. Then we try to learn from Denmark how to, to have a very best easy way to connect to the grid. From France, we can see a good system to produce together with farmers biomethane when we were still producing biogas from CHP. So and there are a lot of good practice all around Europe, and there are potentially good practice. We have to put all these things together, work closely to the Commission. I think this tripartite agreement can be a good chance to put member states together with the Commission to harmonize the system, because at the end of the day, we don't have to lose the view on which is the long-term goal. Long-term goal is to have in Europe a production of 100% biomethane, or let's say renewable gas, produced 100% from soil to the end consumer in Europe, with industry and technology that comes from Europe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this answer. I have a question to Anna. I think, Anna, there was a question in the chat to elaborate a bit more on the methodologies for the potential of the different countries that you calculated. And I would like to ask to add to this question specifically the role of sequential crops, of intermediate crops. Is that something that you're going to look closer into in the future, in future reports?
Okay, thank you for the question. As for the methodology, well, I discussed some of the details. Like, for example, it's very important to not to account for current uses of this feedstock that are already used for feed, food, animal bedding, etc. So that's an important consideration when you're doing this type of analysis. And there's all the technical details. Maybe it's better to refer to the report where everything is a bit more detailed. So maybe that's a good way to find the more detailed information of what's considered there. As for the sequential crops, it's true that this is an important topic, and fully agree with Piero. This is something that is gaining the attention, and I think that finally the energy sector and the agricultural sector are starting to speak to each other. But this is quite a new thing, and the energy sector is starting to understand the potential of cover crops, intermediate crops. We're not considering that in our study, neither the use of marginal land, which is relevant in other countries. In Brazil, for example, they're looking at that very much. Basically because it's a bit more difficult to estimate, especially the competing uses of this second crop. But this is something that is emerging. We are all learning. And I have the feeling that these two sectors are going to speak to each other more and more. So these sustainable practices in agriculture will be more and more integrated into energy policies and energy studies. So I think this is a starting point.
Okay, thanks a lot. I take another question. It's from Jait Mulani, and please excuse me for not pronouncing fully correctly the names in the chat box. Perhaps this is a question where Connie could give her view. It's about how can we ensure that the benefits of biomethane and biogas are fully realized in the country where it's produced, and also keep the cost-benefit balance in a way. So biomethane, of course, has also a price. So what are your views on keeping this cost-benefit analysis, cost-benefit balance, and making sure that all the benefits are actually realized in the country?
Thanks very much, Jeanette. Yeah, in FAO we have an approach that we always use at country level, which is to ensure that stakeholders are always involved in the process. And I think that specifically on making sure that the benefits of biomethane return to the local communities, this is an extremely important point. As Piero mentioned before, regarding awareness raising and also understanding of cultural norms. For example, in some places we see that people don't want to cook, for example, using gas that was produced from feces, for example. And so understanding these sorts of cultural norms, but also understanding the needs of the local communities and all of the local stakeholders, as well as the regulatory framework and the policies, ensures that the biogas plant, for example, in this case, is not only economically viable, but is also benefiting the local communities in terms of energy access, in terms of, for example, organic fertilizer to improve yields, in terms of also the waste management, so ensuring that there's collection of waste in the local area. So all of these aspects are extremely important and can be ensured by getting a multi-stakeholder approach right from the very beginning. In terms of cost-benefit analysis, obviously, this needs to be something that's done from the outset, as I mentioned, with a techno-economic assessment, really to ensure that there's long-term viability of the project. And finally, what I would like to mention, and it relates to this, but I think it's important across the board, is also capacity development. Maybe it doesn't seem quite so relevant in the EU, although I'm sure that it still is, but capacity building, we found, is one of the really key aspects to ensure the not only the longevity of a project, but also its ability to support sustainable development goals. For example, if there's no capacity building on using the biogas, then it might leak or be flared, for example. Capacity building on maintenance and management of the biogas facility to ensure that it remains functioning over a long period of time. The choice of feedstock, the position or the location of the anaerobic digester, all of these things contribute to ensuring that the biogas plant and the integrated system are providing the greatest benefits possible. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And perhaps an additional question that is also in the chat box. It's about the potential of aquaculture, residues and sludge from aquaculture. Is this something that you see? And perhaps I will ask the same question to Anna afterwards, whether they have taken it into account in their study.
I saw this question in the chat, and indeed it's an emerging area of research. It's not something that we have done specific analyses on at country level, but I'd be very interested to connect with the person who asked the question in the chat so that we can investigate this further together. Thanks.
Anna, perhaps if you want to say, what is that taken into account in your study?
Yeah, but this is a very geographically specific type of feedstock. But we do see that, especially when we have a look at the industrial waste from agri-food systems, and this includes algae or fish growing industry. This can be very relevant in some regions. So in different places, they will have different opportunities to use organic industrial waste. So this is all very relevant, and in the end, how the business case for a biogas plant has to be adapted to local conditions and local resources. So we see, for example, that Brazil is focusing on residues from the sugarcane mills, not the bagasse, but also the cake and the filter cake and the other material that they're producing. So in each country, they will have their own specific material, organic material that they can use. So this is a very relevant question that highlights this diversity of feedstocks.
Thank you, Anna. I see that time is running and we are approaching the break. There is a question that is highly marked, which is on the economics of biogas. And I think I noted that down for the next panel. I think we will be able to address it with this in the second panel. Just to finalize this panel with a closing question, and I would like to give the floor to Piero again. What is your take? How can we accelerate even more biomethane development, biogas development? How can we get the ball rolling even faster?
We just come out from the conference with the idea that we have to move a little bit faster from targets to a clear frameworks that help investment. So probably the work we have to do together with the Commission, Member State, industries, is try to find which are the most important bottleneck and try to work to make it going away. And obviously we know where to work, because we know we have to work a little bit more. We have to work faster on the permission side. We have to work faster on the acceptance. We have to move faster on having a more harmonized regulatory system for supporting in different member states. But all this work has to be done with the idea that it's not just enough having a target. You need to follow up and see how the investment are moving for achieving this target. If something is getting wrong, we have to go back and try to work for going straight to the target. So it's more practical approach.
Very good approach, practical approach. Thank you so much, Piero. Thank you, Connie and Anna, for joining us today. We will close the first panel now, and before we move to the next one, we will have a short break of 15 minutes. So we will reconvene at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our second panel now. We will go a bit broader. We will broaden the scope and look at biomethane and its byproducts and synergies with other renewable and low carbon molecules such as hydrogen. We've learned already on the first panel that biomethane is indeed a multifunctional system, which is not only producing renewable energy, but also fertilizer, which also provides a waste management solution. And it produces biogenic CO2, which can replace fossil CO2, for instance, for the production of e-fuels. And that's actually where the hydrogen comes in, because hydrogen is the other component that you need when you want to produce synthetic fuels like e-methane, e-kerosene, e-methanol, etc. So that is what we want to look a bit more closely at now. And therefore, I'm very pleased to announce our next panelists. We have among us today Jeremiah Murphy, who is a professor and the director of the MAREI Research Center. That's the Research Center for Energy, Climate and Marine at the University College Cork in Ireland. Welcome, Jeremiah. We also have Ilaria Conti, who is coordinator for strategy and development at the Florence School of Regulation, and she's vice president of the gas expert group at the UNECE. And finally, we have Jared Ostheimer, who is the CEO of the Molecule Group. I hope he is among us. He gets a special welcome because he's connecting from Texas at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I think that's very appreciated. So we will start again with a short round of presentations. Let's start with Jeremiah. Jeremiah, we are very eager to hear your insights. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So my name is Jeremiah Murphy. I'm the director of the MAREI Center. These are some of my colleagues. We have graduated our 230th PhD this year in the area of energy, climate and marine. I also work with the International Energy Agency Technology Collaboration Program in bioenergy, and this is a report that we produced in 2024, which looks at circular economy approaches to integration of anaerobic digestion with power to X technologies. So when we talk about power to X, we would look at making fuels from electricity. And when X is equal to 1, we talk about hydrogen. So using renewable electricity in an electrolyzer to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. When X is equal to 2, we talk about methane. So we would find a renewable, sustainable source of carbon to react with the hydrogen to make methane. And what's important is that up to twice as much energy is procured from the gas grid as the electricity grid. And electricity is only 20% of energy. So we're looking at trying to decarbonize fuels. When X is equal to 3, we talk about methanol. And methanol is CH3OH, so it's an oxygen molecule added on to a methane molecule. So we can make methanol by reforming of biomethane or having biogenic CO2 react with hydrogen. Ammonia obviously is required for renewable fertilizers. And then we Fischer-Tropsch and sustainable aviation fuel. So we need renewable hydrogen and we need renewable carbon dioxide. And anaerobic digestion has a significant role in this process. Just for a bit of context and as an example, I'm from Ireland. And we have this plan for offshore renewable energy supply. And most countries have very, very mature plans for renewable electricity. Ireland is interesting because it's an island, so we can't really connect into France or Germany or Denmark. We are an island grid. And as such, we've experienced some of the highest levels of system non-synchronous penetration. So at any one time, we have the world record for the amount of electricity coming from variable renewable electricity. And that's about 75%. So at any one time, we've had 75% of our electricity from wind, which is variable. And this has been very problematic. We've had to build this system, we've had to build this flywheel whose sole function is to control the voltage in the electricity system. That's about 150 million. So we're very, very challenged as an island in dealing with variables. And that's at 40% renewable electricity. Our ambition for 2030 is 80%. So it's a huge challenge. We have an auction pipeline for 17 gigawatts of offshore wind for a country that's never used more than 7. And we already have 6 gigawatts of onshore wind. So we're looking at producing an awful lot more electricity than we have ever used. And this really is where the renewable fuels come in. So if you look there at phase 3, we have 2 gigawatts of non-grid private wire, which is earmarked for hydrogen. So the country has decided we need to make hydrogen from offshore wind and make renewable fuels. I live in Cork in the very, very south of Ireland, and we have this designated maritime area plan, and we expect a gigawatt to come into my harbour. So that's a challenge for us. What do we do with a gigawatt of electricity coming into a harbour that will not go into the electricity grid? So we're looking at these options, power to X. So when we look at renewable methane, for example, this is a very simplistic schematic of the microbiology of anaerobic digestion. We have our complex polymers being liquefied, fermented to volatile fatty acids. But then we have this hydrogenotrophic methanogenic archaea. And this has been around for millennia. Long before humans walked the planet, these archaea were converting hydrogen and carbon dioxide to methane. So in our laboratories, we started feeding anaerobic reactors only hydrogen and carbon dioxide, and we produced pure methane. And we devised this system in our lab. It's a demonstration scale. We call it an ex situ biomethanation rig. So we have 3 reactors that are fed hydrogen and carbon dioxide under pressure in a sequential process. And if you look at the graph, R3 is the third of the reactors. We're getting over 97% methane. So we can convert hydrogen from offshore wind, carbon dioxide, and convert it into renewable methane. And this is in Copenhagen. It's electrochase technology. So this is a biogas plant at a wastewater treatment plant producing 125 meters cubed of biogas, of which 50 is carbon dioxide. So by employing ex situ biomethanation, that 50 meters cubed of CO2 becomes methane. So we've upgraded the biogas, but we've also increased the methane production by about 60% because all the CO2 is now methane. And we need 4 times the amount of CO2 as hydrogen. So we need 200 meters cubed of hydrogen. Hydrogen is 3 kilowatt hours per meter cubed. So we've 600 kilowatt hours of hydrogen. And if we look at our electrolyzer at about a 60% efficiency, we have a 1 megawatt electrolyzer at our wastewater treatment plant, upgrading biogas and increasing the methane content. After methane, we look at methanol. So X is equal to 3. The world produces about 110 million tons of methanol, and it is seen as the transport fuel for shipping into the future. So the quantity of methanol will increase. So in a net zero world, we need to decarbonize methanol and also produce methanol for shipping. We need renewable hydrogen, such as from offshore wind, and we need biogenic CO2. This biogenic CO2 could come from anaerobic digestion. If methane goes in the gas grid, CO2 is left behind. It could come from an ethanol facility or an alcohol facility. Direct air carbon capture is about 450 euros a ton, where we think we can collect a very concentrated stream of CO2 from biomethane at about 30 euros a ton. So I would say the ceiling on the sale of biomethane from an anaerobic digester is direct air carbon capture. So we are competing with 450 euros a ton. So biomethane will produce biogenic CO2, which is very, very, very valuable. There's 2 ways of making methanol. We can reform biomethane to biomethanol, which is very easily done. And I think Maersk is looking at this in Denmark. So biomethane is converted to biomethanol, or we can have hydrogen from offshore wind, biogenic CO2, such as from anaerobic digestion, to produce our methanol. Within the harbour in Cork, where I live, we've been looking at, there's 50,000 tons of biogenic CO2 from the distillery. And we did an analysis to see, well, what would this look like in a context where I live? We would need a 70 megawatt electrolyzer to make methane. And we found when we did the maths that 100 kilowatt hours of electricity would give us 54 kilowatt hours of methane. We looked at that electrolyzer for methanol. We would need more CO2, so an anaerobic digester giving us another 17,000 tons of CO2, and we would get a 55% energy return to methanol. Ammonia requires no biogenic CO2 if we wanted to make fertilizer. It's about a 50% return on electricity. And the Fischer-Tropsch diesel had an 18% return because of all the products involved in Fischer-Tropsch, and it's a lower conversion efficiency. We then looked at Europe, and we looked at the impact of biogenic CO2 on producing a number of fuels. So we looked at hydrocarbons, we looked at methane, methanol, Fischer-Tropsch liquid, and Fischer-Tropsch diesel. And the issue here was we're starting off with cheap biogenic CO2 from anaerobic digestion at about 30 euros a ton. We then look at biomass combustion, which is about 90 euros a ton because there's lots of nitrogen. And then we looked at direct air carbon capture. And you can see the red guy there, for example, that's Fischer-Tropsch diesel, which only gets an 18% return. It requires direct air carbon capture a lot earlier. So we found to meet the 705 terawatt hour target for shipping, the average cost of Fischer-Tropsch diesel would be 311 euros per megawatt hour, or 3.11 euros per litre of diesel equivalent, while methanol would be 117. So biogenic CO2 will be a very important precursor on the costs of our renewable hydrocarbons. My last slide, oops, it jumped, it gone again. My last slide is this biofuel, biorefinery, e-fuel, e-refinery. We see whiskey distilleries, food and beverage, anaerobic digestion, producing CO2. We see offshore wind, our PV in an electrolyzer. We also see pyrolysis of digestate to biochar, and using that biochar to upgrade wastewater to potable water for the electrolyzer. And we can make methanol or methane or SAF. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Very interesting Also, the starting statement reminding that electricity today only represents 20% of our final energy demand, which shows that molecules are needed and continue to be needed in the different forms that you have illustrated also in your presentation. And also very impressive to see the challenges, especially in countries like Ireland, but I think we see this across the continent, the challenge to integrate these renewable and make something valuable out of them instead of simply curtailing when there is not sufficient electricity demand in the grid. So that's where the power to X comes in, and the e-methane and the other e-fuels. I would like to continue with Ilaria now. Ilaria, welcome, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. And we just learned a lot, I think, from the previous presentation from Professor Murphy on the practical implications of applying biogas and biomethane and the interlinkages between with hydrogen in a real scientific context. What I'm trying to do with my presentation is to make a little bit of step back and see how this interplay between hydrogen and biomethane actually finds its place in the overall European policy and energy strategy. I think this excellent slide from the Copenhagen School of Energy Infrastructure illustrates very well the interlinkages between biogas, biomethane, and hydrogen. We heard this already a lot today of the undisputable important role of biomethane in as a vector for the circular economy. And we see this in practice here. We see how biogas can be produced. We learned about it also in a sustainable manner, depending on the feedstock used and depending also on the process applied. We know that from the production phase, it can then be upgraded. And as we can see here, I hope the pointer works. Yes, it does. No, okay. So let's say in the right side of the slide, you can see how this biogas, when it is upgraded, it can be then utilized for in several sectors. The biogas can happily work together with other molecules. But what I would like to stress here is really the flexibility, and actually this is an intrinsic feature of biogas and biomethane, that it is very flexible and that it can work together with other molecules. We know that biogas and biomethane in particular has a similar structure to the molecule, has a similar structure to the one of natural gas, and therefore this allows for an easier use and integration into the existing energy system, particularly when it comes to utilization of gas infrastructure. And this is a very important feature. But we also know that differently from natural gas, biomethane has a different sustainability value, and that's what makes it particularly interesting and easy to combine also in the future decarbonization perspective. Sustainability, and in particular the utilization of more and more sustainable molecules is, let's not forget it, one of the core pillars of the European Energy System Integration Strategy, which was released in 2020. And so biomethane is definitely one of these cleaner molecules for the future. As I said, putting things in context and looking at the more regulatory aspects linked to biomethane implementation, which could or could not facilitate this interplay with other molecules in the existing system, we have to look at the existing regulation, particularly recently published regulation. We know that the main source of reference are the RED directives 1, 2, and 3, which sets the targets, which aimed at defining precisely, finding the definitions for renewable gases and low carbon gases. But there is also recently the publication of the hydrogen and decarbonized gas markets package, really aimed at facilitating the integration of not only hydrogen, but also, as mentioned earlier, biogas, biomethane, all forms of renewable and low carbon gases into the system. So Europe introduced various regulatory framework to financial incentives and certification mechanisms to support really this development of biomethane. Similarly, it did for hydrogen. Then there were anyway, the implementation of following this, the publication of these directives has not always developed, let's say, in a consistent manner. So what we have now is a sort of patchwork of fragmented policies and inconsistent certification systems, because these are the results of the different implementation of this European framework in the various member states. Particularly, well, there have been, of course, initiatives which have then afterwards tried to improve clarity and harmonization and improve these disparities between the member states. But at present, we still see these disparities, particularly when it comes to certification, tracking, and the regulation of biomethane production and trade. So this misalignment, particularly within subsidy schemes and cross-border certification, unfortunately still has an impact on market development. It doesn't facilitate it. There are mechanisms such as guarantees of origin, which are intended to facilitate trade, but there are still disparities in the national recognition, and the additional eligibility conditions imposed by member states have created inefficiencies. For example, it's possible in some member states, in order to not lose the incentives at national level, some companies avoid engaging in cross-border trading, as we all know. So these schemes prioritize more, domestic production over cross-border trade, as I said. So this eventually results in market distortions that limit the efficiency and the competitiveness within Europe. I think we should not spend too much time here, because we already heard directly from IEA what the perspectives for development of hydrogen are. But just to remind that the biomethane is projected to make up a growing share of this total, so growing from about 20% in 2023 to 40% in 2035, and 60% from 60% in 2035, according to these two different IEA scenarios. So positive perspectives for development. And just to make a full picture of biogas and biomethane integration in the whole energy system, there are some aspects that we should not forget. Some of them have already been mentioned, and I was very pleased to hear from FAO that unfortunately, well, that actually, positively speaking, we seem to have learned from the past. In looking attentively to the nexus between food and energy. So the food versus feed has become now a food and feed perspective. This is actually very positive news. There are other aspects still to be taken under control, to be monitored. The need for control of animal husbandry due to enteric fermentation and these effects on biomass availability. Also, we want to make sure that there is no lock-in effect for fossil gas infrastructure. As I said, biomethane utilizes existing gas infrastructure. We know that because of the reducing gas demand, natural gas demand for Europe in the future, there might be a reconsideration of the existing gas infrastructure, a reduction, possibly a decommissioning. So biomethane, of course, plays an important role in this discussion. And last but not least, carbon accounting and competitive economics for biomethane. It's very important to look at as already said, at the certificate systems because, and this is something that comes from research, in some occasions, and it's visible also in the first slide that I mentioned, the classification of CO2 resulting from the whole value chain of biomethane can even be considered, well, the hydrogen produced can be considered then even carbon negative, not only carbon neutral, but also carbon negative. So a huge potential there to be still analyzed and researched even further. And of course, we will do so. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ilaria, for outlining the role of biomethane in the energy system integration. And I think what you've mentioned just a minute ago, the complexity of schemes is really something that we are currently struggling with, all of us, and the plenty of barriers to a market to develop. They are still out there, and we're still looking for solutions. I would like to take now a look to the other side of the Atlantic and welcome Jared Ostheimer to give us the view of the molecule group.
Hi, yeah, it's a pleasure to join you all this morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so sorry. So it's a pleasure to join you all this morning. I think that we should return to that issue of carbon accounting that was kind of snuck in at the end. I think that there is a lot to be said in terms of ensuring the certification of diverse gas streams. I know that a lot of people at EBA are working really hard on that. So I actually am here to, in a sense, play news anchor. And I'm here to tell you that this week, 2 days ago, in the run-up to Brazil, that the COP30 presidency has announced what they're calling the Belém Commitment for Sustainable Fuels, or Belém 4X. This was officially launched Tuesday by the governments of India, Italy, Japan, and Brazil. And the text has not been released, but the overall the core partnership shall be releasing that text very soon. As I will explain to you, I believe on the next slide, this goal of quadrupling the production, is it production? I thought it was use. Anyway, the production of sustainable fuels is based on a very recently released, I think released this week, report from the International Energy Agency entitled Delivering Sustainable Fuels Pathways to 2035. This is publicly available, and the link is on the next page. But as I'm sure you all know, you can just go online and get that PDF yourself. And I apologize for being wordy, but this is actually the entire press release from the government of Brazil. And it's worth noting that the Belém 4X commitment aims to promote the global adoption of more clean and sustainable energy sources, such as hydrogen, its derivatives, biogases, biofuels, and synthetic fuels, which can be substitutes for fossil fuels. And so biogas is fundamental to this 4X challenge. It is understood to be fundamental to this 4X challenge, actually for exactly the reasons just presented by Jerry and Ilaria. So if we now look, so this is the headline. This has been posted. This image has been posted by our friend Ilka Anula from the IEA on LinkedIn, and Ilka and Paolo will be telling this story in the coming weeks. So as I said, the Brazilian choice to go for 4X is the result of IEA analysis. And when you look at this 4X number, let me be clear, it is a global number. So it is not, we're not asking each country or each jurisdiction or each company to increase by 4X. we're targeting the globe to increase by 4x. And we're stacking, we're adding all the different sustainable fuels to get to that number. And so I think Ilaria just showed the, I'm not sure which scenario, IEA scenario she just showed, but she just showed the scenario which is shown here in light green of the potential to scale, the opportunity to scale biogas production between 2024 and 2035. We anticipate these fuels to be used in a range of sectors. This is not just for transportation, but it's for transportation, industry, buildings, and power. And as shown here, there's a range of fuels as I read off on the last slide. And then quoting from the IEA, so to be clear, this IEA 4x number, this is not even really that much of a stretch goal. To get to the 4x, Paolo is very clear that what needs to happen is simply policies on the books need to be fulfilled. Now, we know from experience that policies on the books, we often don't get there, but basically the encouragement is for countries to live up to the plans and commitments that they've already made. Okay, so molecule group, and yes, it's odd showing a picture of myself in a slide. I don't think I've ever done this before. But molecule group has been encouraging this international ambition. And we did that by preparing an industry letter to the COP30 presidency, which I delivered to my friend, Andre Correa de Lago. I met Andre through the Global Bioenergy Partnership in 2010. And it was a pleasure to deliver the letter to Andre and the COP30 president in New York as part of the UN General Assembly and Climate Week. And for this community, I would like to stress that we are still accepting endorsements. And so you can see logos on the right, and we would just really encourage, including a number of biogas, biomethane, ENG companies, and we would really welcome additional participants. It's really easy to sign up. You can go to Molecule Group and it'll be right in front of you. Also, I'm very happy to take any questions either here or afterwards. Now, what matters, yes, it's wonderful to have this target. I refer to it personally as the bright, shiny object. And what matters is that this target gives us top cover, that it motivates political support, it simplifies political support, it simplifies policy support that allows us to address the topics that have been raised previously that need to be overcome, the barriers that need to be overcome, technical barriers, financing barriers, policy barriers, that we can work together to move forward. I just want to point out to you that we have created what I call this engine of change, where based on evidence from IEA and by extension, IEA Bioenergy TCP, we feed that into the action platform of the Clean Energy Ministerial, which now has 9 countries that are very engaged to accelerate future fuels. And then this can then strengthen ambition, which can then come around in an iterative way to drive improvements in the policy environment for biogas, biomethane, and other fuels. And then my last slide, I just want to point out that some details about what's going to happen next. So on the 7th of November, President Lula will be formally launching this commitment, and we anticipate a number of countries will have signed, but country signatures will be accepted for the rest of 2026. And we will be perhaps working with you to recruit additional country signatures. If you are going to Brazil for COP30 on the 8th of November, which is a Saturday, in Sao Paulo, there will be a high-level dialogue, and I encourage people that are interested in joining that dialogue to contact me. My information is here, and you can reach me through Harmon and his talented crew. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jared. Thank you for sharing those very good news on that commitment by the Brazilian presidency, and we hope it will be endorsed by other countries as well. I think it's a very strong international signal in favor of our sector. Yeah, the floor is open again for questions. Please put them in the Q&A box. And in the meantime, I want to start with a first question round. I would like to ask a question to Ilaria. Biomethane and hydrogen, it was mentioned several times during the presentations. Do you see them as competitors or are they complementary?
Absolutely complementary. There was, I mean, most of the debates were dominated in recent years by the role of hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives in the system. I think after some great enthusiasm, it has been now clarified that hydrogen's utilization will be restricted to some particular sectors, particularly in industrial clusters. So what had been discussed in the past that hydrogen could replace natural gas is now something that is not really in scope any longer. Biomethane and hydrogen have two completely different molecules, and so by nature, I would say they are different, and therefore they can be complementary depending on the final utilization. Biomethane is more similar, as said, to natural gas, so this facilitates greatly its immediate utilization. There's no need to repurpose infrastructure, which is something that instead is probably one of the biggest barriers to hydrogen utilization. But also the economics, I think, are in favor of biomethane at present, even just because it's already a vector which is flowing in our grids already. So there is, again, economies of scale are there. So very different vectors, different molecules, different utilization and potential. But I think in the future perspective of energy system integration, it will be very good to integrate both of them in a positive manner, keeping in mind that, again, hydrogen utilization will be probably is more limited in terms of scope.
Thank you very much. Very clear. Actually, I would like to ask a similar question to Jared, also from the perspective in the US. How do you see the role of biomethane versus hydrogen versus other potential e-fuels and the role of biogenic CO2?
So first, my apologies. I am an American. However, I know very little about the American situation. So what I will say, though, is that working with my colleagues, David Cox and Sam Lair, learning from them, I'll make two comments. One, I think I agree with everything that Ilaria said. I think that the existing infrastructure and the ability to use that infrastructure is super important. And then the ability of methane as a hydrogen carrier cannot be, it cannot be underemphasized. I think that, biomethane can be really fundamental to the future role for hydrogen going forward. I myself actually think that in the near and medium term that there is an important place for hydrogen. Personally, I think it's attached to a carbon. I think that we have a lot of need for hydrocarbons and we have a lot of need for sustainable hydrocarbons. And I think that we have been producing millions of tons of hydrogen and attaching them to carbons. And I think that should continue for the foreseeable future. The other point that I wanted to make is that so already within the Clean Energy Ministerial, David Chiaramonti and myself, we support an activity called the BioFuture Platform. And the BioFuture Platform initiative collaborates already with the CCUS initiative. And so we're developing a project that we would love to engage industry and academia and thought leaders such as yourself on building out this idea that was shown very nicely in, I think, Jeremiah's slides of taking the CO2 that comes off the fermentation and using that as a feedstock for e-fuel production. And so, so that's an argument for co-locating facilities. That's an argument for taking a holistic approach. And we would love to learn from you what the practical challenges are that could be addressed from the clean energy ministerial perspective.
Thanks a lot, Jared. And you also helped me with the next question, actually, that I will just pass on directly to Jeremiah. On the barriers or the difficulties that could be related to the biogenic CO2, to using the biogenic CO2, and perhaps to add to this, biomethane is one source of biogenic CO2. There are other sources. How do you see the long-term role there?
The area of molecules, as Jared said, to me is going to be a huge issue going forward. Electrification is limited in that at the moment electricity is 20% of energy. I think if you look at net zero models, it hardly ever goes above 55%. So there'll be 45% of energy that will always use molecules, and we need these renewable hydrocarbons for aviation, for shipping fuel. And in the presentation, I outlined the importance of the biogenic CO2. So you've renewable hydrogen, which will probably come from electrolysis. It will always be expensive. But the biogenic CO2 almost dictates whether you will have a sustainable hydrocarbon in terms of cost or a very, very expensive. So direct air carbon capture is about 450 euros a ton. We reckon in a biomethane plant, we get biogenic CO2 at about 30 euros a ton. Ethanol plants is similar. Biomass combustion is the next level, and that's around 90 euros a ton because you have lots of nitrogen. So we see a huge draw for biomethane, ethanol, distilleries, food and beverage to be associated with electrolyzers and to make that renewable hydrocarbon. The issue with hydrogen is it is so voluminous. I mean, we reckon that the levelized cost of energy of hydrogen is quite cheap because you have a very simple step, but the total cost of ownership is very, very, very high. And we've been looking at shipping in particular, and even though hydrogen would be seen as the simple step and the cheapest levelized cost of energy, the requirement for cryogenic systems makes the total cost of ownership of hydrogen as a transport fuel as very, very expensive. So methanol, for example, we would see as a very, very suitable vector for shipping. In some cases, liquefied methane. But our viewpoint, and I'd echo Jared's comment, is that it's the hydrogen derivatives. It's not the hydrogen molecule by itself. It's hydrogen reacted with CO2 to make either methanol or maybe Fischer-Tropsch. And then there's the idea of ammonia. I mean, ammonia is a shipping fuel, doesn't require biogenic CO2, but there's a lot of concerns. And this is where you need the multi-criteria decision analysis. We spoke to a stakeholder group, and sailors don't want to sail on a ship with ammonia. I mean, they would want to double their salaries. It's, you know, that there is a threat associated with ammonia. So it's something we are not definitive on, but I think that the renewable hydrocarbons will have a huge role if to satisfy the 45% that will not be satisfied by electricity.
Thank you very much. I will continue immediately with a question to you, Jeremiah, from the Q&A chat, and that is on the cost of CO2 from anaerobic digestion. You mentioned 30 euro per ton. The question is, does that include purification?
in producing biomethane, the role is to take out as much methane as possible in as pure a form as possible. So typically you're left with CO2 at about 99% concentration. Referring to a report from the International Energy Agency, they looked at about 30 euros a ton. And we would see this as being reflective as a base case for ethanol production also, and for alcohol production. So in specific cases, it might be somewhat more expensive, but it will be an awful lot cheaper than direct air carbon capture, which is about 450 euros a ton. So again, every case is specific, but the base case that we've taken from publications such as the International Energy Agency is about 30 euros a ton, and it's about 80 euros a ton for biomass combustion, because then you've lots of nitrogen and other elements. So cheaper CO2 comes from concentrated CO2, which is exemplified by biogenic CO2 from biomethane or alcohol or ethanol.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to stay a bit with the cost question. I think Jeremiah implied it, others said it, we cannot really compare just the levelized cost of electrons in molecules because there is a system cost behind each of them. And Ilaria, how do you see biomethane, methane as a part of this energy system from the cost competitiveness point of view? And perhaps I would like to call in Harman afterwards also to give Eva's point of view on cost competitiveness.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely have a biased view that is starting from the fact that, okay, as I said, biomethane is already more competitive than other sources that are still to be developed, where technology still has to improve. On the biomethane sector, in the biomethane sector, technology has already evolved a lot, and this is at the basis also of the big expansion in recent years. Technology will keep evolving. Therefore, I think that the cost competitiveness of biomethane now can be greatly facilitated by regulation. So if regulation manages to find some measures, some harmonization, some incentives to facilitate and to make the biomethane a real cross-border market, this will naturally have an impact on the cost competitiveness of biomethane itself. I really believe in this. I think that regulation so far has been, it hasn't been too much. I mean, what the scope here is not to reduce regulation or to deregulate, is to simplify and streamline some regulatory decisions rather. So not lowering the standards, but using better accountability tools. And this, I'm sure, will have definitely a great impact on the development of the biomethane market, both in terms of expansion of volumes, and also in terms of lowering the costs. And this means that regulation should rather focus more on the final impact, so on how biomethane can really have an impact, and a positive impact on the reduction of greenhouse gases emissions and soil health, on circularity, rather than coming up with prescriptive inputs, because this we have seen they are not leading to good results.
Thank you, Ilaria. Harman, would you like to complement?
Well, I think Harry has summarized it very well, but just let me spend a few words on that. So indeed, biogases are already the most competitive one at the moment. We expect that it will be positively further influenced by the fact that we can utilize two other products which we have as well, which are very important, which is the organic fertilizer and the biogenic CO2 we just talked about. It is also very important to understand that it's not really only the price of the biogas what counts, but you really need to look at the whole system cost. And if you look at that, and if you look at the system cost, for example, for electricity to be put in place, what all the changes to facilitate, of course, the uptake of electricity, which, by the way, is needed, We can take out some of that cost because we have the infrastructure there already, and the whole infrastructure is allowing us to get it fairly cheap to the consumers, whether it is in the communities or the industries or within transport. And then another remark is the infrastructure functions as a real, well, the largest renewable battery really we have. There is, at the moment, of course, there is a large need for batteries to accommodate, of course, the intermittent parts of the electrons. But if we indeed combine the biogenic CO2 with hydrogen and we use this also within our gas grid, it will function as a huge battery to function at the moment when we need electricity and cannot be supplied by solar and wind.
Thank you very much, Harman. Very clear. Last question before we close the panel. I'd like to ask it to Jared. From your perspective, your broad international experience, what do you think is needed to keep renewable gases going, to accelerate even more?
You know, I look at biogas. Again, I apologize. I can't. I've become a horrible generalist. I apologize. I used to be an academic, and so it's shameful. But my sense is that there is persistent concerns about feedstocks, about the biomass, and my sense is that there are challenges that come from that were pointed out today, where we have disparities in regulations across jurisdictions, and so we have market fragmentation and a lack of interoperability of sustainability and carbon accounting standards. And those are the topics that we will be addressing in the coming years in order to achieve the scale up. And we do hope to hear from EBA and its community so that we get those right. And without naming names, I would say that the real challenge is market fragmentation and actually leadership from non-governmental actors that muddies the waters, and that I know that Molecule Group and my colleagues are working on, and I know that we're in touch. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so there is a clear case of joining forces internationally and removing.
Oh yeah, no, and that's for me the most exciting. Yeah, so for me the most exciting thing about this, as I call it, the bright shiny object of the 4X number, is that it will stimulate a rethink of our energy transition, as Ilaria alluded to.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists for joining this second panel. Thank you for very insightful presentations and contributions. It's time to wrap up now, and I would like to give the floor to Francisco for a closing speech.
Thank you, Annette. I should must thank all the speakers, you, Annette, of course, from my side. And if I can pick, let's say, a headline of today's session, I would say something like domestic molecules and or from the circular economy are key for decarbonization. As was said by Jeremy, the electrification is limited. There are quite important limitations, and we have the molecules just to cover a very substantial part of this ambition to decarbonize. And just probably starting with the last person intervening with Gerard, there is an ambition, There is a initiative, the Belém Commitment for Sustainable Fuels. I hope that you have a successful outcome of this. As mentioned at the beginning by Harmen, we at UNECE, we are trying to promote the declaration on biogas, biomethane, and if only we could get let's say the outcome within COP30. If this is not the case, COP31, we have time also to disseminate, to promote, and to keep biogas on top of the agenda in such a way that for COP31 it is adopted. Let's see, the efforts being done, notably, especially by Harmen, are so huge that if we get it, will be his merit. But this I mentioned about, or I referred to this circular economy, and the circular economy was based on this what Connie just addressed on Connie from the Food and Agriculture Organization, where they say that agri-food consume 30% of global energy and contribute nearly to the same greenhouse gas emissions. So we highlighted the need for energy small solutions, and here also important to say that 1/3 of food is lost or wasted after the farm gate, and biogas from agriculture, from agri-food waste and residues support circular bioeconomy goals by valorizing these wastes to produce renewable energy, organic fertilizing, and bio CO2. And this could be the base for this circular economy. Happy to see how our agency, International Energy Agency, represented today by Anna Alcaide, also believes that that there is an ample sustainable feedstock to accelerate growth on biogases, and the role of those biogases in diversifying to several sectors. Sectors, again, somebody could say difficult to electrify, and I personally think that not only those that are difficult to electrify, but even in the domestic supply, why not? We can keep at the same time the electricity and gas networks. Gas networks are already in place. I give you the my own example. I have electricity at home, of course, but I keep my boiler, I keep my gas system. I would like to keep both the electricity and gas. Piero, on Piero, I would say that what Piero said is from the president of our association, European Biogas Association, but also il Consorzio Italiano di Biogas, was focused on Europe. We know that Europe is the main producer, but we are in a global war with we have to learn from each other and try to push all together, not only in the European landscape, but also elsewhere. Sorry if I don't go in the details, but you have already the presentations, and will be provided, will be available, and I invite to revisit the presentation so that we can get not only the flavor but also the good insights provided by all the participants. The second part of today's sessions on the interplay between hydrogen and biomethane, more in the first part by Professor Jeremiah Murphy on from a more technical point of view. So they are, but addressing things that are already well known, by all of us, all the chemical engineers, but can be explained to the general public that this is we are not starting from the scratches, and this battery referred by Carmen is already there. So what we know is that we can apply the technological edge to get the best and the maximum from these molecules. And finally, just a quick remark on Ilaria's from the French School of Regulation, and also in the UNECE as vice chair. It is true that we are growing, that the biomethane and biogas biomethane is growing. Let's hope that we are able to push and to increase the speed of this growing path. There are already some regulation, but in addition to regulation, we need to align all the eligibility criteria, the financial support, the policy objectives, etc. The domestic schemes. Let's learn from the domestic schemes for the other countries, from what was useful and was already producing results to be used elsewhere. So, in summary, this is a vibrant world of biogas, biomethane, with a bright future. I'm sure there's a bright future, and we, all of us, committed with the development, will do our best to get this outcome. The sooner, the better. That's all from my side. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you, Francisco, and that's a very nice closing statement. So we are now at the end of this webinar. As announced at the beginning, the presentations and the recording will be made available on the website of the EU Biomethane Week. We might have left some questions unanswered in the Q&A box. Please don't be frustrated. We will try together with the panelists to answer these offline. I also saw a lot of comments in the Q&A where people share their experiences on the ground, on the research projects that they're working on. I think that's an excellent opportunity also to connect across the world. We have participants from Indonesia, India, Poland, many projects everywhere. So very nice occasion also to connect within our sector. So thanks again to all the speakers. Thanks to the audience for joining us today. It was a pleasure to host this webinar, and we hope to see you soon at another occasion.